Hey, this is Skullcra here, live recording at my house. So this is, me. Hey, you've probably seen me because, hey, you see me in the camera, but yep. So just to explain, this is a video basically explaining and also more, but for now, explaining why exactly I have not been on, within the last couple days, almost last week. And a half actually on YouTube at least, or a week I guess, and why I haven't been streaming as much, mostly because I'm actually getting ready for more benchmarking and recording, getting more. So in regards to that, check this out. Yep, you wouldn't believe it, but this is my Micro Beast. That is actually just showing you, just to give you an idea. Here's my hand. There is the case. That is a tiny ass case for that cooler. And if you're not familiar with that cooler, that is the CNP S12X from Zalman. It is a massive 250 watt TDP cooling solution, so all air cooler, massive triple fan, triple 120 millimeter fans with custom aluminum fin radiator and everything, construction. It is a beast. Not normally cheap, and I'll admit I got it for relatively cheap, but compared to what it normally is, I think it's normally like almost $100 or so, and I might have gotten it for like half of that, or a little bit less. Actually, I might have gotten it for like $30, I don't remember. It actually had almost, I think it had all the mounting hardware, which is a big surprise, because a lot of times when you buy like Zalman stuff used, most people don't, tend to forget the mounting hardware for whatever reason. I suppose because Zalman does actually include a metric ton, literally, of mounting hardware with all their stuff. Because, hey, they want you to be able to mount it all the way back from PGA 478 all the way up to, AM4, well, not AM4 Plus yet. If you're using the AMD AM3 Plus mounting brackets that already come installed on the motherboards, most of them at least, then yes, it would actually fit those two. So yeah, they want you to be able to fit on everything, for whatever reason. I mean, I will admit their air cooling solutions are usually pretty darn good. Just be wary of their water cooling solutions, the resorators. I had a bad experience with one already, and actually with two technically, but one was not the fault of the manufacturer. It was the fault of the person who resold it. They did not include the mounting hardware, and it's like, it's Zalman. They don't use standard anything. So unless you use an AMD, and then they sometimes come with the mounting brackets specifically just for like an AM3 Plus or AM2 Plus, whatever, mounting solution, the stock ones. You can usually use like the stock plates, or even the stock brackets that are installed. So yeah, this is a small little Micro ATX case, about $20 or so, usually on sale. And so I've got this paired up with two XFX. Yes, XFX did actually make NVIDIA cards for quite a while, up until, I don't remember, I think like the 400 series or something, or maybe I think the 200 series might have been the last ones. I don't recall off the top of my head right now. I do have two of those in SOI, which was, funnily enough, was actually my second video card setup in my first rebuild back in 2013, 2014 or so. Well, definitely 2013, 2014, which I had an FX6300. I think I mentioned that once. That was my first rebuild since my first actual build I made since high school. So yeah, I had two of those after that, and after an R7-250 was my starter, and honestly, they were a lot better, just because of the pixel fill rate, the memory bandwidth they had, a lot of other little things. and the fact they supported NVIDIA physics, which for me, since I was playing Borderlands almost all the time at that time, really made a big difference. Yeah, and that's with the Seasonic, I think was at the G2. I don't remember off the top of my head right now. 620 watt power supply, bronze rated. That's a really nice power supply, and you can usually get them for pretty cheap. I'd say 40 bucks or under is a good call. And beyond that, I mean, not a lot. I mean, I did pair this up with a little 32 gig solid state drive and just a little 500 gig laptop hard drive, because unfortunately with that cooler, any of the regular mounts for like a 3.5 inch just doesn't friggin' work at all. So yeah, I mean, that's one reason I have been away. I've been gathering parts, biding my time on deals, though that will not be the final setup. It will be, and I was mentioning this after, before I realized I had not started recording, that I realized why it was running so warm, because even now, it's still running, what, like 41, 42, almost 52 degrees. That's with, you know, the side popped off, which, incidentally enough, you would believe that it would not, oop, man, I got flipped the wrong way again. You would believe that it would not actually fit with them fins sticking out that far, but yes, it actually does. Sorry, it actually does fit underneath this panel. I don't know how. I don't know how it fits underneath this panel. You know, I mean, I do know how. It just barely clears it. Like, this thing has literally just enough bump. I'm trying to see if I can, yeah, just, oop, come here. It has just enough bump on it that clears them aluminum radiator tips. Yeah, the heat pipe tips, there we go. Just barely clears them, and it does scrape. You know, it doesn't clear it completely. It does scrape a little bit, but it doesn't affect it. Doesn't hurt anything, and it's a good thing it's not, you know, a friggin', you know, that is not a see-through panel, because a see-through panel, they're usually flat, and even the ones that are curved, you just don't have those little holes in it, so that it could actually just nestle itself right into those holes without actually getting caught or anything. And I think they give it a little more room, and it breathes a little better. But yeah, I realized that with the panel on, it was running at like almost 60 degrees Celsius on idle, just about. And I was like, that's not right, considering that the fans were like over, you know, around 1500 RPMs, 1200 or so, which is about normal, because that thing does not need to rev up hardly at all, considering how big the fans are and how many there are. So I figured out to actually put it on backwards, because hey, I completely forgot which way it goes, and it doesn't have any detailed arrows or instructions right on the thing like, say, a regular Cooler Master or CryoRig setup does. So yeah, of course, you know, it's running warm. But you know what? That could be fixed. That'll take me like, well, I'll have to pop the whole motherboard out, but even that shouldn't take me more than 20 minutes. Half an hour tops. I mean, just because it is such a tight fit. If it wasn't, it wouldn't take me any time at all. And if I didn't have two graphics cards on there, it wouldn't either. But yes, so those are, getting back to the original topic on that part, those will be replaced by two GTX 570s, which right now, honestly, was the best I can get within time constraints, because I want to get this thing sold and gone. As much as I would love to keep it, especially with that massive cooler, I love that thing. I've had that thing for a couple years, well, 2 years I think, maybe. But I've had that thing long enough that I have grown fond of it, but I have nothing that it would fit in, because unfortunately the RAM, you have to actually have, and I'll show that here. See, I've got 12 gigs of RAM there, but you have to have, because of how big this thing is, it hangs over at least almost 2.5 RAM slots down below. I don't think you can see it because it has a lighting and because it's so tight anyway, but you have to have low profile memory over your first 2 to 3 RAM slots, which luckily, you know, at least on an X58 motherboard, as long as it supports triple channel memory, isn't a huge issue, because you can just slap the if you want just dual channel, you can just, you know, slap 4 sticks on the other side of those two channel of those first 2 memory DIMM slots, and you're still got dual channel. Where like on the FX 9590 or 9590 build I had on a Asus Sabertooth 990FX board, I mean, shoot, it was blocking out, you know, 2 of the slots, so I was only getting single channel memory, which really slows down your build, honestly, especially on an older rig like that, or if you're actually doing any more serious gaming. Like, I definitely couldn't do anything 4K at the time, because I think I remember I had my Arctic liquid freezer 240mm RAD on it, and when I was doing 4K with dual GTX 980s, I still hate that I got rid of both those. Well, I had to get rid of one because it finally went bad. But yeah, that's why I've been not on as much. I've been really working the late nights on, not just on this, but on other stuff. So I've kind of been pushing myself, and I'm pushing myself tonight because I didn't intend to actually get up and record, or stay up and record. And certainly not because I was trying to actually get some sleep, which I will. I mean, no worries there, because this, I'm almost hitting where I want to be on this. I mean, so yeah, I've got that, and then one last thing. I had to turn that light on because I'm showing you the other rig I was gathering parts for, which, if you can't tell, is an there it is, EVGA board. And I know you can't see much of it, but it's really unique. It's an EVGA. It's the For the Win SLI. I know that's not the official name, but I think it's the 132 KR, the 132 variant, which actually has the VRAMs up top. I know you can't see them because the lighting here is horrible for this. So it's actually, you can tell because it's got VRAM on top instead of just on the side, and it's also got 2 8-pin CPU plugs. It's like, really, what board requires 2 8-pin CPU plugs? Plus it even has, I don't know if you can see it there, or if my finger's in the way or anything. Trying to get, there it is. You can't see it here very well, I know, but there is actually, I think, like a built-in LED of some sort. Not LED, well, yeah. I don't remember what it's for yet, because I haven't had a chance to test it all out, but it actually does have a Molex connector, yeah. A lot of motherboards used to use extra Molex connectors instead of like extra PCIe connectors for extra power to the PCIe slots. But if I remember correctly, it's a status indicator. And then it does also have the code indicator here. It does have power reset, a built-in speaker. It actually has an, it's actually got a triple selectable BIOS. It's like, what? You know, usually you just have a regular dual switchable BIOS. No, this has 3 separate BIOSes you can switch between for overclocking. Really friggin' awesome. And like I said, 2 8-pin CPU plugs. So if you haven't guessed it, this is it's a P55 motherboard. So that is, yes, a first gen. And I say, oops, sorry, I do say first gen, you know, with air quotes, because technically, yeah, those 900 series X58 LGA 1366 i7s were technically first gen, though I think they were considered first gen Extreme series. And yeah, I'm gonna turn this off, this light off again, sorry. So yeah, that's another project I'm working on. So I'll have that, and then if you didn't tell, I also had another little build here. Same case, that's the Rosewell SRM01. So it is a nice little cheap case that is actually pretty handy, and apparently it fits massive freaking coolers inside. That's actually one reason I did choose that cooler, I remember, because it is actually relatively low profile for its size. I think another one comparable and actually a little smaller that would fit better and actually has much better RAM clearance on average would be the Cryorig R1 Universal, which is just as expensive usually too, like around 80-90 bucks, but you might be able to pick it up for 60, where this one I think I picked up for like 30 or 40. I don't even remember how I think I got it on Amazon. Amazon is surprisingly a good place for like finding some damn good deals if you browse the warehouse, if that's available in your country. So yeah, this build here is actually an Intel Core 2 Quad. I think that's the Q8400. So yeah, that's going to be a supreme budget build with another GTX 570, though I may go with a pair in this one, or I may just go with a single 2.5 gig, because I think that one's going to get a 2.5 gig. Depends on if I can find another comparable or better card for cheap. For cheaper than I paid for those 570s, which, you know, hey, if you can get 570 for 50, 60, I wouldn't go more than 70. I think 70, honestly, you're starting to get into like 660 Ti, 670, 680 territory. Well, maybe more like 670 territory, because right now, honestly, even like cheap crap, even like older, cheaper graphics cards, like 600, 500 series, especially 700 series cards, are just jacking up in price. I mean, the cryptocurrency, as much as I don't do any of it myself, I would like to. I have, you know, a Fury, I have an R9 290X, I have cards that will mine really well for it, but I mean, it's already power consuming enough what I do, you know, by testing and running these rigs and building them, and you know, just general gaming in general, with, you know, especially with the older rigs and that are more power hungry like I do sometimes. I mean, with as much as I use, I don't really need to be using like, you know, even more power, because in the winter it's fine, but in the summer, I mean, shoot, it can get warm in here, and it uses up a lot of power. So I mean, that's one reason, and two, I mean, it's not really feasible to do it with single GPUs as much. So I just don't have the time or the investment money really to get into it as well as I'd like to. But yeah, anyway, and with all that being said, it's really kind of driving people further and further down the line, it seems, and even the miners further down the line in terms of older hardware. Like even 600 series, 700 series cards are just jumping, you know, more than $50, like more than double almost in a lot of cases what they were like a year ago. Like when I was popping 100 series, 700 series cards for 50, 100 bucks, you know, 50 bucks for like 670s, 680s, hell, 570s. I think that 570 I have in that Core 2 Quad went for 30 bucks, maybe. I think it was like around like 35 or 30 or something. And now they're going for friggin', you know, 55, 60 a lot of times. I mean, so it's getting pretty crazy, honestly. I mean, so that's why I have to go with those. And to be honest, they're still very capable. If you're looking at like a 750 Ti, which right now you're lucky if you can get it for 75, you know, for literally, you know, a tenth of, for a decimal point less than its name than what's in its name. So for 75 instead of 750. So you're literally lucky if you can get it for 75 or even 100 a lot of times for 750 Ti's. It seems, just from what I've seen over the last 6 months. Like I said, a year ago, I could have been picking them up, by the dozen for less than 50. And they were going for like 35, 40. And the only reason I picked up like a 670 is because they just blow, a 750 Ti out of the water. Which, getting back to the point, a 570 will easily keep up, or actually beat out a 750 Ti quite handily, from what I've seen. Even a 1.125 gigabyte version, which I have to pick up 2.5 gigabyte versions, so they should be pretty darn good comparatively. I mean, I was running Warframe on that Core 2 quad system, maxed out on both the card and the chip. I was running at 50, 60 frames per second on low settings. That's pretty phenomenal, honestly. Because I think I wasn't getting quite that good on those SLI GTX 260s. I think I was getting like 30, 40 frames per second. I think I VSync, I think I frame locked it at 30 frames per second. And it was butter smooth, but it was not doing the same as a single GTX 570, obviously. I mean, beyond that, that's really what I've kind of been up to recently. I will be getting back on streaming. Like I said, I would have been on tonight, but I kind of, I have to kind of get some stuff together. Just been having a lot of thoughts on my mind, but biggest thought is you guys and getting content, getting builds, getting equipment, just getting time to be with you guys, to create entertainment, to create enjoyment for you guys, because that's what I really want to do. I want you guys to enjoy what I do, and I want to be able to enjoy showing you guys what I do. So this was Skullcraw, and you guys have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow.